listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Teresa Lear Levine. You're already enough. But if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching and developing yourself, creating more of the person you feel called to be. This podcast is here to inspire and support you. Let's release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow. Hello, 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 and welcome to this week's episode of Becoming More Me. I'm your host, Teresa Lear Levine, and today I want to just speak from the heart. This is an unplanned episode, and share about decision-making and manifestation and trusting your gut instincts, as well as creating a legacy and making memories in the everyday that are so very valuable to us. So let me preface this a little bit. And I have to laugh as I'm, watching myself record this episode, because whenever I'm talking with my assistants that do the editing and things for me, and we're curious, like, oh, hey, is that an episode that I was a guest on? Is that one of my own Becoming More Me episodes? Which one is that? And we always know that when I look like a train wreck, like I do right now, because I just finished working out and I haven't done my hair and there's no makeup on my face, we're like, oh yeah, that's one of my own episodes. So I love that though about these, because these are truly me. These are, you walk into my home in the early morning hours or any other time when I'm able to just sit down and squeeze in a recording, and this is me. So while I do love getting a brush through my hair, putting a little bit of color on my face and putting on something special to wear, this is real life when you are listening to or watching these episodes. So, when the hairs are stray or I look like I just finished working out, I am. And that is just the way it is. So you get very, very real Teresa when you come in and listen to or watch these episodes. If you're listening, you really wouldn't notice the difference. But if you're watching, you can tell when it's one of my episodes versus me having a guest on my show or me showing up for someone else's. And that's very much the way that I am in real life. If I'm going to go out of the house, then I'm going to, do things a little differently than if I'm just hanging out in my own house. And this show is my house. So sometimes I like to get dressed up, and most of the time I'm just casual and doing the things that are comfortable, and that make all the other things that I do a little bit easier. So I think that's actually a misnomer to say I'm doing the things that are comfortable, because I'm doing a lot of things that are uncomfortable in my day to day, but I like to feel comfortable in my clothing and appearance while I'm doing them. All right, enough about that. So manifesting and decision-making and so on. It's been an interesting few weeks around here. As you know, we were in Punta Cana a few weeks ago, and then we came back and had a little bit of time before my oldest son, who's a junior in high school, had district championships for his school's robotics team. A little bit of backstory on the team, especially if you're listening or want to follow, because this very well might get released as the World Championships are unfolding. His team number is 1111, and I feel like I don't need to say any more than that. But for those of you who know me, you know that I love repeating numbers, 1111 being one of my favorite, for alignment and angels and feeling like you're on the right path and being right where you need to be. And I love it. 1111, make a wish. It's so very me. So for the team number to be 1111, it felt destined, from the time he signed up. And he just joined the team this year, his junior year of high school. So, there's kids that have been doing this since middle school, and some who are also juniors and just doing it for their first time. So he's gotten so much experience from this, and it's an amazing, amazing opportunity. I knew absolutely nothing about robotics teams, what they do, how they work, all the different parts of it, until this year. And Lord knows I have a crap ton more to learn. But in the opportunities that I've had, I've made sure that I am registered correctly to be there as a mentor. I show up to meetings when I have that time to give, and I'm just really trying to learn what I can because I realize that this is something that's important to my son and therefore important to me. So it's been a really cool year of learning, and I was very, very excited when they um, when they did so well, locally, and then they ended up at districts, and they placed high enough to go to the World Championships, which are happening April 20th through the 23rd in Houston, Texas. Now, for those of you who don't know or listen to the show often, we live in Maryland. So Houston is a little bit of a stretch, and there's a lot of variables. So my husband and I had said from the get-go, however far they get with this, we will support him going. And I said from the get-go that if they got to these later championships, that I really wanted to go, that it meant something to me to be there and be of support. And I didn't go to districts. It was a very short planning time. All of these things are very short planning times because from one championship to the next, there's usually only a week or two. And obviously, you don't know if you're going on to the next one. So there's hotels to plan, there's transportation to plan, there's logistics, there's liability stuff to sign off on. There is all sorts of stuff. And, the team mentors are doing an amazing job at handling like 99% of that, I think. So, and the team, obviously, the team does a lot of this also, but there's a lot of work to do and a lot of last minute stuff. And for that reason, it was a little bit harder for me to wrap my head around going to districts with things that were just already on the calendar and everything else. And I think my son really wanted the experience of being able to go on a trip like this without having a parent along. With the pandemic and everything, the opportunities that he's had have been so different than they would have been without the pandemic. So getting to go stay in a hotel room with teammates and have that responsibility and freedom yet supervised, I think was really appealing to him and something that he wanted to enjoy and savor in his own way. I don't really think I would have infringed on any of that or changed it a whole lot because the parents tend to do a lot of their own thing from what I understand. But I wanted to respect that and give it space also so that he could enjoy it in that way. But when they made it to Worlds, I'm thinking, gosh, this is potentially my last chance to go on one of these. Who knows? I mean, we don't know whether he'll join again next year and continue, whether they'll make it this far next year. All of those things are unknown, but it is known that they're going this year. So that is one thing that I can work around. And interestingly enough, my calendar for the week of Worlds and my husband's had even more crazy stuff on it than during districts. So I was trying to make the decision and realizing, as I always do, that the decision was already made. In my heart of hearts, I want to go, I want to be there, and it's important to me to be there and to show that support as a parent and be there in support of Jaden and the team and in the spirit of creating memories and feelings that are supportive of the mother-son and family relationships that I want to have and embody. So what I'm looking to do here in this episode is to walk you through kind of the self-coaching that I find myself doing in situations like this, because it wasn't always that way. And I know that for a lot of people that are listening, you may be grappling with difficult decisions. And there's such an energetic shift and a mental shift that you can take on that can make the process of getting the outcome that you want so much easier. And, there really is, the more work that we can do around our energy, around our mental state, and our frequency, and that which we attract, the more we can move from a process of thought to action to outcome and just make that thought to outcome. And we can eliminate so much of the work and accomplish so much more through just being and putting those messages out to the universe. And the whole idea of ask and it is received, all the law of attraction stuff really does work. It's a reason it's a law. It works every time. The problem is so many of us do not put the belief behind it in order to allow it to do what it does. So instead, it does what it does, but we don't get the outcome that we want because we're not focusing on that which we want. A lot of the time, we're focusing on that which we don't want. Therefore, we get more of that. So let me walk you through how this was looking for me and what I was able to tell myself or decide about within the decision to make it easier. And I'm hopeful that if you have a big decision that you're trying to make, you can kind of put yourself in this same place and use some of this same thought process to make this a little bit easier for you. But this will be around my specific situation with this decision to go on this trip and what I was able to coach myself through in order to make it happen. So, as with EFT rounds that I do with myself or my clients, I always like to start by looking at the negative. And it's also really important from a law of attraction standpoint. It's much easier to identify what you don't like, what you don't want, all of those things. However, if we linger there, we can't ever get what we want. But it's necessary to check it out, see what it is, figure out what the opposite of that is, and then move forward if that's actually what you want to be able to manifest. And so I'm looking at my calendar, first of all, and I'm like, there's so much stuff happening that week. I don't see how I can make it happen. And for those people who are driving to this event, they're leaving on Monday, the 18th, and they're not going to get back until the following Monday, the 25th. So it's a pretty long time. And there's a lot to consider with that, and a lot to rearrange. So even though I don't like to say that's not a possibility, it wasn't feeling aligned with me to drive, which made me feel a little bit guilty because we have a large passenger van. We could be of service using it, but I also didn't like the idea of using our own vehicle to make a 3,000 plus mile trip. We need to get some new tires on, which we'll be doing in the next few weeks, but just I don't have the time to do it beforehand, so on and so forth. So I thought through a lot of things there. And I thought, okay, well, even if there's a rental vehicle and I'm sharing driving, it is still 2 days of probably 13 plus hours of driving, even if it's shared. And I don't feel like that is the best support I can give to my health, the best way that I can spend my time, or anything else. So that led me to think, well, let's maybe explore the idea of flights. It would seem like that would cost more, but who knows? Maybe it costs less. Maybe things come together that make that a better option instead of a worse option. And that led me to the thought of, okay, well, if we take flights, then also my son can not miss those 2 days of school. They go back to school the 19th after Easter Monday, and we could leave on Wednesday instead. And they're also in school the Monday that the team would be returning by driving, and he could be there also if we were to have a flight back on Sunday. They're like, okay, cool. That's 2 less days of school that he needs to miss, and less days that I need to rearrange on the calendar because Monday and Tuesday had a lot of things on them. And also my husband has travel for work Tuesday and Wednesday. So there was thoughts around, gosh, how are we going to get our other kids covered? We have 4 boys, not just the one. And how are we going to make sure that they're covered and taken care of? What can we do there? And how are we going to make that work? Another thing that's on our schedule for that week is my husband is supposed to have his first gum graft surgery, along with other things with his teeth. They've got a lot of work they're doing in there. And you may recall episode 33 of the Becoming More Me show. It was called When the Unexpected Happens and Things Are Not Going Well. And in that episode, one of those things that I spoke about was the unexpected dental diagnosis that my husband had gotten from his periodontist and all of the surgeries that were to follow. So we've been through one of them, and the second one was scheduled for this week. So the week of the World Championships. So trying to figure out, can we bring somebody in to help him with that? Can he reschedule that? What can we do with that? And just all the things. I mean, with 4 kids, there's so much on the calendar, and there's so many things, so many days that my husband and I are kind of flying by the seat of our pants. Hey, we'll check in after lunch and see who can pick up this kid for that and who's going to drive to that. Do we divide and conquer this evening, or do we do soccer practice together? How are we going to handle dinner? Because we're all only together for 25 minutes in total in anything that resembles dinner time. There's a lot of things that shift, a lot of moving parts, and a heck of a lot of gratitude that we have 2 of us to cover it. So for me, there's also a lot of guilt when I'm not here. Now, that's not his fault. And that is something that I'm working on releasing, because I know that it doesn't serve anyone, and it doesn't have any place in being my best self, my happiest self, and just being the mom, wife, person that I want to be. So there's the guilt, and there's all the rearranging, and there's the surgery, there's my husband's work, all the things that he's going to need to rearrange or change, the other people that impacted from that, and so on and so forth, which leads me back to more guilt. And there's the feeling that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and that I don't want to blow it, that I would be really, really sad if I was watching this from the couch in my living room, like I did with districts, and it was fun. But with this being potentially the last time that we have this opportunity, who knows? I think I would feel very sad to let this opportunity pass me by. So even with all the overwhelm, and then of course there's money, there's cost to this trip, obviously. And then there's a matter of doubling that cost so that I can be part of that. And I have gotten to a place around money where I realize that it's unlimited. There's always more of it, and it's figure outable, and this decision requires it. So where that might have stopped me in the past because our budget doesn't necessarily include that this month, or it's not what we were planning on, that doesn't stop me in my tracks like it used to. And neither does the idea of needing to rearrange things. And neither does the idea that it has to be a struggle, because it doesn't. And those are all old thoughts that I would have clung to, which would have easily led me to the conclusion that this is not possible. We can send our son, but I cannot go. And it's through self-coaching and examination and consciousness around what is a thought, a belief, or a fact that you can really make much greater things happen than if you just take your beliefs and thoughts as truths and begin to feel helpless. So with all of those things on the table, I still realized that my desire to go trumped all of them. And at that point, the decision is made. So at that point, I'm saying to myself, okay, so I'm going to Worlds. And now it's just a matter of figuring it out, about deciding that I can make it happen, and convincing any part of my brain that isn't sure that it's really going to work, and to line it all up and to get that clarity around it. It's basically a matter of jumping all the way over that fence and putting myself on the other side in Houston at Worlds, getting myself into that feeling of being there, that feeling of being 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, and being able to look back on that memory and enjoy it. I swear part of what got me like choked up thinking about this was They had just gotten the news that they were going. And I was also watching This Is Us. You know how that is. Got to bring the tissues for that. And that's literally the only show that I religiously watch. I don't always get the episodes in on time. I think I'm watching an episode from several weeks, if not a month or longer ago. But eventually I sit down and I catch up and I watch the episodes. So the episode that I was watching was one that focused highly around Randall's character. And his mom has all those memory boxes in the closet and all those ways that she still connects herself with her kids and values what they are doing and what they accomplish and who they are. And all those memories, being able to look back on those things, I can create that now, just like I've created so many amazing memories with my kids over the years up until now. And I love getting to reflect on them and feel good about those decisions that then allow me to make more decisions like those. So, in that This Is Us moment, which happened several days before I admitted to myself that I made the decision, I had already made the decision. And guys, the important thing to realize is that when you know you've made the decision, stop fighting yourself on it. Stop acting like you haven't made it and start asking the universe to co-collaborate with you to allow the things to fall in place that are necessary to make it happen. And it can happen fast. Sometimes it happens fast because decisions have deadlines. Sometimes it happens fast because you can get your energy in that place and make things happen. For instance, I think my This Is Us moment was Sunday. And Monday morning, I mentally walked myself through this and examined all the different things that I was feeling challenged about so that I could find solutions or release the feelings that weren't serving me and move forward. And so much was figured out by Monday night before my head hit the pillow. So let me just get into that. What I find I still need the most coaching around is the stuff that involves my kids, that mom guilt, and even though I know they're going to be in good hands when I'm away, no matter whether it's at school or with my husband or whoever else we get on board to help us, I still have that feeling that I should be there, or that nobody else can run the ship like I do, or that they're going to need me or miss me or be sad or cry when I call them on the phone or any of those things. And that also does not serve my happiness, their happiness, or anything else. And a feeling like, oh gosh, I'm going to leave them high and dry, but it's not the truth. It's a thought and it's dramatic. And what it looks like in my head is completely different than the reality. So wrapping my head around that is difficult. And then in this particular situation with my husband's surgery, when I was going through the decision-making process, we weren't sure what we were going to do about it. Like, is he going to go through the surgery and I'm not going to be there? He didn't want my help with driving him, picking him up or anything, even before this opportunity to go to world championships was on the table. But I think knowing that I was around if he was in pain or just needed to rest or relax was a comfort. And now I wasn't going to be. So, what was going to happen with that? I was feeling guilty there. I was feeling guilty around him needing to rearrange his work travels or inconvenience other people because of that. And I was feeling uncertain about who we would ask to come help us. We are lucky to have two sets of grandparents that are alive and could help, but also have a lot of health concerns and they're aging. And we have 4 very energetic children and routines that are a little hard to keep up with. And I don't ever assume that they're going to be available or judge if they're not, because they have lives and they have every right to not agree or be available. And a lot of times they're not, unfortunately, for one reason or another. And sure, I wish that they were. I would love to be one of those families that has the easy to call relatives that show up in an instant and make everything so much easier. But that's not our reality. And that's okay. That's okay. And we can figure out things without that. If I tell myself a story that we can't do anything because we don't have easy coverage available, then that feels awful. And we've made so much happen without that. So there's no reason to be upset about it. And so again, the decision is I'm going one way or another. And then it's just a matter of how are we going to make it happen? How is it going to work out? And to start asking with that decision, putting things out there, seeing who or what agrees to what things, and realizing that if someone agrees, whether it's my husband agreeing to change his travel schedule or alter his surgery date, or someone volunteering to come and give us a hand, or hiring somebody to come and give us a hand, or whatever, then that's their choice. I don't need to feel guilty about it if I ask and someone agrees, because that's their choice that they're making. And that is something that has taken me work to come to understanding and accepting. And realizing that when people do decide to help out, they feel good about doing it. And I know I feel good about doing it when I'm able to help somebody out. So I don't need to feel guilty about that. I can realize that that is someone's choice and I can manifest that. And I don't have to feed the situation with more drama, because the drama and the negativity prevent the manifestation and make it harder to figure everything out and make it happen. So one of the other things I do is I start to write things down on paper. I start to really look at things. Okay, so what calls need to be made? What do I need to do? What flights do I need to look at? What hotels do I need to look at? What information do I still need from the team in order to coordinate it properly? Who else, can we help as a part of being there? All sorts of things, puzzle pieces everywhere. And when you're in the process of decision making in the beginning, it feels like some of them are not there or supposed to be part of the puzzle, like they don't fit. It's not quite aligned, and getting things to align is all part of that process. And for instance, when I was trying to make a lot of these decisions, it was before the team meeting. I didn't even have the puzzle pieces. Some of the puzzle pieces didn't even exist. And yet our brain tries to go to work and solve for things that we don't have information for yet. And when you're overwhelmed and anxious, that's usually what's going on. Like we're just trying to solve a huge puzzle. Like maybe it's a several thousand piece puzzle, and yet we only have a couple hundred pieces of the puzzle. So solving it in that moment isn't possible. And that is when it's more important than ever to just keep the belief focused on it working out, so that you can allow those puzzle pieces to come to you and the puzzle to grow in its picture and everything to begin coming together. Because as you do things, then you gain more and it starts to get sorted, and then it falls into place. And there's no reason that you cannot relax during that process. The only thing that prevents you from relaxing and having ease through that process is yourself. So knowing that I want to feel aligned and clear and joyful about this experience because I want it to be a happy experience, I want it to be an amazing memory and all that jazz, I have to focus on that relaxation and that ease and allow it to play into it, and allow that happy memory to form here in the present moment, because it's not a memory yet. I still get to enjoy and experience it at the time of this recording. And I want to be present for it and present for the planning of it and everything else. It can all be amazing. Okay. So, decision made and focusing on why. The why is always important. We talk about this all the time in all different ways, but understanding why it's important to be there, understanding that this means something to me. It's important for me to be there to support my son. It's important for me to show my family that support and that they'll know when they're doing things, I'm going to be there to support them too. And it's important to allow this experience to unfold and allow my husband to take the reins for a few days. And he's done it before. It's not like it's a new thing. And he's always willing to do it. And to be open to however many days it is that we're going to be away and however it's going to come into place and happen and unfold for us. So letting go of that guilt and managing the things that I can, letting go of the things that I can't, realizing it's not terrible if my kids miss me. It's not terrible if they're sad that I'm gone and that comes out when we talk on the phone. And that's all part of being grateful and appreciative of having each other, and that it's not a bad thing. And that, all the wonderful things that get accumulated from all the travel that my husband does, and that we do as a family, like hotel points and airline points and things like that. Like, what else can they be used for but travel? And, getting to see those things come out as I do research and like, okay, cool. This supports this trip. And what else can it be used for but a trip? So why not this one? And seeing that comes in and helps with the budgetary concerns and things like that. And as we went to the meeting, I actually encouraged my husband to come to the team meeting with me on Monday night so that he could understand more. And you know what? While we're at the meeting, he's looking up flights. And by the time that we were home and had a chance to chat with my son, because another complication of the planning is that my son is with his dad this week for spring break. So he's not physically with us to do this planning and make these decisions, which just adds another layer. It's okay. And it's where he's, meant to be. And it's all good, but it just adds another layer. So getting to talk to him, make sure all is well, and he's okay with the plans. By the time we went to bed on Monday night, my husband had booked the flights for me. It just kind of manifested. He knew I wanted it. He did it. And he had taken care of hotel arrangements, and he had taken care of such an amazing blessing and so much support. And I could feel that he was in support of me doing this. And yeah, you know what? There's a lot of inconveniences for both of us and a lot of things that we need to reschedule. But I laid it out there. I let him know that it was important to me. And he answered with filling in so many of the gaps and so much of the uncertainty that I had earlier in the day. And all of the pieces started to come together. And certain things that we thought would work out one way are they're working out in a different way. But that's okay, because I've put that call out there to the universe to help make it happen in whatever way is best for the highest good of all. And that's going to make it amazing in so many ways. And it's exciting in a way to, see what my kids are up to when I'm away, see how they handle things, see how things go, see what new and different experiences they have. And also realize how freaking much I do for my whole family all the time, because that is an area where I don't give myself enough credit. And I know a lot of my listeners don't either. So when you look at leaving for a few days and you think of all the things that need to get covered because you're not there, you're doing those things on a day-to-day basis, typically year round, and probably not patting yourself on the back for them. So even though it's been something that I do consistently on and off for decades, I have not been in the practice for the last month or so of actually writing down the things that I'm grateful for, the things that are going well, the things that I'm, giving to my family or the things that I'm receiving, or just having a good gratitude journal practice. And as I thought through this whole decision the other day, it became very clear to me that I need to put more on purpose attention towards all of the good things that I do, all of the amazing support that I provide for my family, and how consistent I am at doing that, despite not acknowledging it consistently. So yeah, it's decided. It will happen. It is booked. We are going. It still feels like there's about 50% of things that still need to be figured out or ironed out or canceled, rearranged, rescheduled, or otherwise. But those things, just like everything that fell into place in the last 24 hours, those things will fall into place too. So I can feel peaceful about it. I can release the stress. I can get into that gratitude stream and really begin appreciating everything else that's going on. This is a blip in time, guys. And, my husband and I were joking this morning because I said to him, as he was like, gosh, I've got to get my whole team needs to rearrange, their rental cars, and I need to rearrange my flight. And he was just going through a list. He wasn't complaining. He was just kind of ticking off the things that needed to happen still in order for his end of things to be aligned in order to be able to support the kids so that I could go. And I was going through my list of things that still remained also. And I said to him, I'm like, you know what? In 10, 20, 50 years from now, I don't think that there will be any memory of all the mountains that it felt like we needed to move to make this happen. But I do sincerely hope and I believe that there will be an amazing memory around the actual event and the feelings of the heart that are part of that. And I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about it. That's what matters to me. And oh my goodness, there's a lot of emotion in here. I'll just tap while I'm talking. And it's good emotion. It's joy. It's a feeling that I made the right decision and that it's supported by the things that mean the most to me. That feels really good. The bills that are incurred, the inconveniences that are incurred, the guilt, the feelings that are being released through this, it's all so minor in comparison to what's being created through doing it. And that's what this is all about. So I wish you great ease and clarity if you're facing decisions that seem complicated or difficult or challenging. And I think the greatest gift you can give yourself is to realize that those decisions are made in an instant and to not fight with yourself over it. When you've made a decision inside, you've made it. And going with that feeling and that belief and what you need to do to support the decision is going to support you in the highest way and give you the greatest outcome. If you lean into uncertainty or doubt or fear or guilt, it's going to be really, really hard. And there is nothing in this world that you decide to do that has to be hard or that has a requirement of being heavy or difficult. Things can be challenging in the best of ways. And even when things are sad or difficult or hard with your decisions, you do really have a lot of control over how much. But you do need to get conscious around it, because if you allow yourself to get sucked in to the overwhelm or feelings of helplessness or being a victim or past stories or beliefs that aren't in alignment with what you want to create, you will never be able to create what you want. Thank you for listening. Thank you for having an interest in my story. And I hope you realize that this story is a parallel. It relates to you. You can apply it to anything that you're struggling through, and ask yourself the right questions and ask the universe the right questions so that you can get what you want in your life. Have a wonderful, amazing, blessed day. And I wish you so much ease, joy, and happiness in your decision-making processes.
Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or post on social media and tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave action steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. Keep shining your light.